Very good evening, guys. Welcome to session 6. Hope you are enjoying your journey of learning Python programming, right? It would be great if you can type yes if I am clearly audible to you. Quick yes if I'm clearly audible. Just type yes if I'm audible to you. Okay. So So let me brief you a bit about what we discussed yesterday. Yesterday we talked about the loops. So whenever you want to repeat certain task in programming, right? So you can make use of loops. And then we also saw we had two types of loops. We can use for loop when we know the number of iterations, number of times, how many times we need to repeat the task. We can use for loop for this. And when the number of iterations were unknown, in that case, we can use while loop, right? And we also saw how to use range function in Python. Then we had certain examples like uh, printing the multiplication table of the number, and we saw the guessing game, right? So we also saw how we can convert a small program into like a simple one time program into a repeatable program using loops, right? So we converted the guessing game into iterative guessing game. We forced the user to reach the correct guess, right? So that's all what we discussed yesterday. Today topic is going to be very interesting, where we will learn how to implement these loops in your mathematics, how to use these loops to solve certain mathematical problems, right? So without wasting much of your time, let me share my screen with you all. Okay. So we will discuss what are loops in, like how we can use loops in solving mathematical problems in today's session. So first thing that we need to understand is we have seen what are integers, right? So we know what is an integer. So these all 2, 7, 78, the whole numbers are example of integers, right? Now, I must say these all are actually examples of positive integers. We can also have negative integers like -1, -2, -3, -4, so on, right? So we have two types of integers, positive and negative. And we all are using these types of integers in mathematics, right? So now a term comes to mathematics, which is factors of a number. So we all know, we have seen this mathematical definition where it says all the positive integers that completely divides the number are the factors of a number, right? So we have seen this definition in mathematics. We have seen that the numbers that divides a particular number is the factor of that number. So if I say I have a number 18 and I need to compute all the factors of that number. So you tell me, where can I find the factors of the number, right? Where should I start searching? Like suppose I start from the 1, and till what number I will be getting factors of that number. So I take a range. This is a range 1 to 80. Okay, so I'm going to get the divisor of that number and the numbers that can completely divide 18 from 1 to 18 only. All of us know that none of the number greater than 18, right, or bigger than 18 is going to divide 18. Any number that can divide 18 is going to be a lesser than or equal to 18 only. Okay, no bigger number than 18 is going to divide it, right? So when we are looking for divisors of that number, we'll look into the range because it is going to be positive integer. So we are going to look into the range from 1 to 18 only, right? So now what I did is I have a factor term with me. So what will I do? I'll start from 1, keep on dividing the number 18 with them, right? And then the number that will divide 18, I'll keep that number in my factor term. I'll add that number to my factor term, right? So I'm going to follow the simple approach. I'll start from 1 to 18. Okay, so how do I check the divisibility, whether 1 divides 18 or not? I check on dividing 1 when 1 divides 18, the remainder should be 0. So how we write this in programming? 18 mod 1 equals to 0. So when 18 is divided by 1, the remainder is 0. So what I did is I am added 1 to my factor term. I say 1 is the factor of 18. So now let's move to number 2, right? So again, 2 also divides 18, so I have added 2 to my factor term. 3, 3 6 is 18. Again, 3 divides, so I have added 3 also to my factor term. Then the number 4, right? 4 does not divide 18. When I say 4 for the 16, the remainder will be 2. It is not going to be 0. So I'll skip 4 and move forward to next number, which is 5. Again, 18 mod 5 will not be equals to 0. So I'll move again forward to number 6. And then 18 mod 6 is 0. So I'll add 6 to my factor term, right? Then we'll look for 7. It's also not 0. We'll move forward. Then we'll look for 8. It's also not 0. Then I'll move forward to number 9. 18 mod 9 is 0. So what I did, I moved this 9 to my factor term, right? Now I look for another number 10, then 11. 11 again, it's not 0. 18 mod 12, not 0. Then we move to 13. Similarly for 14. Then for 15, 16, 17, and finally I move for 18, right? So 18 mod 18 is also 0. So I have moved 18 to my factor term. 18 ones are 18, right? So I have moved 18 to my factor term. So now we have seen the factors of 18 are all the numbers that are there in my factor term. It is 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, and 18. These all are the factors of 18, because we have seen while traversing from 1 to 18, these were the only numbers that completely divide 18, or on dividing 18, they give me remainder 0. Okay. So now what you need to do is we need to write a Python program which will print all the factors of a number, right? So now we know how to do it. We have to start dividing the number from 1 to that number, right? And we'll print all the numbers that will divide. So we know how to use this, how to perform this division operation in Python. We know that. And how to iterate from 1 to that number, that also we know. So we know these things. Now it's time to write the program which will print all the factors of the number which is entered by user. Okay. So let me open up the editor. We need to create a file. So I'll create a file. Let me name it as factors.py. Okay. So now when the file name is factors.py, I first write the comments. Okay. So first thing is prompt the user to enter the number. After that, I'll check for divisibility of number from 1 to number itself. Okay. Now, and if divisible, and print the divisor. If that particular number has divided this number, then I'll print the divisor. Okay. So now I write the code. I need to I want user to enter the number, so it has to be eval input again. Eval input. I'll print the message also. Enter the number, right? And I'll store the value entered by user into a variable, suppose num. Now you see, the second step says check for the divisibility of number from 1 to number. So I need to have a for loop because I know the number of times I have to divide, right? So I'll use a for loop. So instead of variable I'm using the name divisor. So you can put any name. So I'm giving name divisor to my variable. You can give I, J, K, any variable name, right? For divisor in range. So range has to be from 1 to the number. 1 will be the start point and number it is going to be. So if I want my loop to run from to number, I will have to give the range num plus 1, right? After that, I need to check the divisibility. if this number is divisible by this divisor, right? If num mod divisor. Divisor first will be 1, then divisor will be 2, then divisor will be 3, till divisor at last divisor will be num. So every time I'll try to divide this num with the divisor, if it is divisible, num mod divisor equals to 0, right? That's what it is. If it is there, then we'll print the divisor. So this is a simple program where we ask the user to input the number. Then we had a for loop. Then we have a for loop from 1 to that particular number. And we are dividing this number for all the possible numbers between 1 and number, right? This is what we are doing. So we saw it, how we did it when we are adding to factor term. Here, instead of adding to factor term, I'm just printing that divisor, the number that is dividing my given number. I'm just printing that number, okay? So I hope the code is clear to you. Now, I'll try to run this program. Python. The name of the file was factors.py. So it is saying enter the number. Okay. So I need to enter, suppose 18. We have seen the factors of 18. So it is giving me all the numbers 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, 18. So all the factors that we saw there, all the factors are here actually present there. 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, and 18. These all factors are present over here. Okay. So I hope you might have got the idea how we can print the factors of a given number. Right? So this is what actually we did. What we saw, we actually implemented that thing into the code. Okay. Now, next thing that comes is HCF. So you might have heard the term HCF. You might have heard the terms GCD, that is greatest common divisor, or highest common factor. They're same terms, right? So when I say highest common factor, you might have used this term in your mathematics also, right? You might have seen these terms in mathematics, right? So when I say HCF, first thing to remember is HCF is always computed between two numbers. So you need to have two numbers with you, then only you can compute the highest common factor of these two numbers, right? Now, highest common factor, as the name suggests, highest common factor means the highest number that divides both these numbers x and y. So if I have two numbers x and y, and the highest number that divides both x and y is called the highest common factor of that number. So it's okay. I know that when I need to divide both the numbers, I'll start dividing them from 1, right? So I'll start dividing x and both the numbers x and y with 1. Then I'll divide it by 2. Then I'll divide it by 3. But the question is, where will I stop? Because I need the highest number, right? So where should I stop so that I'll start my loop from 1, right? I have the loop where the divisor will be 1, then divisor will be 2, then divisor will be 3. But till what point I should be dividing both the numbers? So that is the question. I'll try to explain this with the help of two examples. Suppose I want to compute the HCF of 9 and 18, right? Now you tell me, if I'm looking, HCF means I need to find the common factors, highest common factor, right? So a number that will divide both the numbers. So if I look for factors of 9, I'll find the factors of 9 from 1 to 9 only, okay? And if I look for factors of 18, so I'll find the factors of 18 from 1 to 18. So this thing is clear to us that if I'm looking for factors of 9, I'll find them from 1 to 9. If I'm looking for factors of 18, I'll find them from 1 to 18 only. Now you tell me, is there any chance that I'm going to get a factor of 9 in this range from 10 to 18? I can never get a factor, any number which is larger than 9, which can divide 9. So I can never get the factor of 9 in this range. Okay. No. So now if I'm looking for a common factor, a number that divides both 9 and 18, and I'm sure that in this range, I'm never going to get the factor of 9. So which is the most possible area where I can get the factors of both the numbers? This one, from 1 to 9 only. So I can get the factors from 1 to 9. If I'm looking for a HCF of 9 and 18, The possibility is from 1 to 9 only. So the SCF will exist from 1 to 9, right? Any number that will divide both will exist from 1 to 9 only. So I'll take another example, right? So I want to compute SCF of 15 and 4. Okay. So if I want to compute the factor of 15 and 4, what will I do? Factor of 15 will lie from 1 to 15 and factor of 4s will lie from 1 to 4, right? Now, there's never going to be a chance when I'm going to find a factor of 4 in this range from 5 to 15, because factors of 4 will exist from 1 to 4 only. So SCF is also not going to lie in this range. SCF will lie in this range. So I'm looking for SCF of 15 and 4. It is going to lie in the range from 1 to 4 only. So what I'm trying to figure out is, I'm trying to figure out a range in which I need to find divisor of both the numbers. So this will be the range where I'm going to get the divisor of both 15 and 4. So if I'm going to conclude this thing, I'm going to generalize this thing, I can say if I'm looking for HCF of X and Y, right? HCF of X and Y can only be found in a range from 1 to minimum of X and Y. Can I say this? Because whichever number is smaller, I will have to search in that range from 1 to that range only. So I'm never going to get any factor, any HCF outside this range, right? In other words, I can say HCF is highest number from 1 to smaller number that divides both X and Y. So if you look at this definition, it is giving you the right way, in the right direction, so that you can write the program for it, right? To compute the HCF. So it is saying highest number from 1 to small. So it is giving you the range from 1 to smaller number. So I will start my loop from 1 to smaller number, and then I'll check whether this divisor from 1 to smaller number that divides both the numbers, it should divide X and it should also divide Y. If any number that divides both the numbers X and Y, then that would be my HCF, right? So I have got the idea. You might have got the idea that how we can write the program for this. So next task is writing the program for this only. So we need to write a program to print the HCF of numbers entered by user. So what we have done is we have figured out a range in which we have to look for HCF. So what I'll do, I'll just open up the editor, create a new file, name hcf.py, suppose. Okay. So the name of the file is hcf.py. First, I'll write the comments. So what I need is, I need two numbers first of all to find the HCF. So I'll prompt the user to enter two numbers in same line, in one line only. Two numbers separated by a comma. Okay, so this will be my first thing. After that, when I have two numbers, I have to set the range of finding the HCF. So I have to set, the start is always going to be 1. Start to 1. And end is going to be the point at which I'm going to stop the searching. Set end to minimum of numbers. So I have figured out the range in which I have to search the HCF, right? After that, I have to check the divisibility from start to end, right? So check the divisibility of number from start to end. So now, if divisible, if I found a divisor that divides both the numbers, check divisibility of both the numbers, actually both numbers from start to end. If divisible, or if we have found a divisor, what we need to do, that is going to be our probable HCF. Update HCF, right? And when this loop will terminate, I will have the highest number, like I'll start from the 1, right? I'll keep on dividing till I find the highest number that divides both the numbers. So the last value of HCF will be the highest value. So I'll print the HCF over here. When this loop will terminate, I will have the highest value that will divide both the numbers. So I'll print HCF over here. So these is a set of statements, a set of steps, which I will be using to solve. Now I'll write the actual code. I want two numbers. Again, I'm going to use eval input for it. Right? Here I need to pass the message enter two numbers separated by comma. Okay. And because two numbers will be entered, I have to store it in two variables. So I take a comma b. So I've taken two variables a and b. Now it says set the start to 1. So I will take a variable start. I'll set it to 1. It says set the end to minimum of two numbers. So I have one function. I can tell you Python gives you one function. I'll launch the Python shell here. You can see I have one function min. So when I pass two numbers to it, it gives me the minimum of two numbers, right? If I pass, suppose this number and this number, it's with 0. So if I pass this number, right, it will give me the minimum number. So what I can do is I can use minimum function to get the minimum number. So and will be minimum of a and b. I'll pass a and b and it will give me minimum of a and b. Now I need to check the divisibility for both the numbers from start to end. So I need to have a for loop because I know the number of times I have to do this. So I'm using for loop for divisor in range. Range is going to be start to end. So I need to write start to end plus 1. Then it will go from start to end. Now I have to check the divisibility of both the numbers. So I need to write if a is divisible by divisor. So if I need to have two conditions, I can use this AND operator over here. If a mod divisor equals to 0, so a is divided by divisor and b is also divided by divisor, b mod divisor equals to 0. So if a is also divided by this number and b is also divided by this number, then I can say this is my probable HCF. So I'll say HCF equals to divisor. The number that is dividing both a and b is my divisor. So when this for loop will terminate, I will have the highest value that will divide stored in my variable HCF. So now I'll print HCF is F. Right now, if I'll save this program and try to, you got this idea what we are doing? We have set the start, we have set the end, then we have checked for divisors in this start and end range. And if we have checked the divisibility of both the numbers with the divisor, if the divisor is found, we have updated the variable HCF. And at last we have printed this variable HCF. Okay. So now let me try to run this. I've saved this program, exit this shell. Now I'll run this program. So name of the file is hcf.py. I'll say hcf.py. It is asking me to enter two numbers separated by a comma. Suppose I enter 10, 15. So it is giving me HCF of 10 and 15 is 5. I hope you got this. So we have figured out how to find out the HCF of two numbers. We have written down the program which can compute HCF of two numbers, right? And you will generally find this approach. I've told you what we are thinking. We have implemented that logic over here. So what we thought about, what we heard about the definition of HCF, we have implemented the definition over here, right? And this is giving me correct answer. We have also validated this. Now the problem with this code is, I'm telling you, if I try to run this, and if I give two large numbers like this, suppose this, I want to compute the HCF of these two numbers, right? If I run this, okay. Again. You see, it is taking a lot of time. It is not, the program is not hanged actually. It will take a lot of time to calculate the um, SCF of these two numbers. So it took some time, right? If I have larger numbers than this, then it will take more time, and this is going to be exponential time, and you will feel like the program is hanged. So for larger numbers, the program is taking a lot of time, and when you will participate in competitive programming, this type of approach where the test cases are going to be large numbers, your this approach will fail because this program will take a large amount of time to solve the problem, right? So now what I have for you is I have this magic machine for you, right? So what this magic machine do is it computes the HCF of large numbers also very easily. I can show you why. So what is the problem with this approach? What happens is when I have two large, so this for loop is moving from start to end. You can see this, right? So when I have two large numbers where the smaller number is also very large, in that case, this loop, suppose I have 10 to the power 9 number, right? A number of 10 to the power 9 range. What will happen? This program will keep on running till 10 to the power 9 times. And that's why it will take time and will give you very delayed responses. So now I have this magic machine which can compute things very fast for you, right? So what we have to do is this magic machine is with us. What do I need to do? I need to follow a simple approach. The simple approach says, I need to give the inputs to this machine. Here I need to, so these red are inputs. So I need to give A over here and B over here, right? So now when I give A and B over here, this machine will give me some output at R, this blue output, where it is R. Okay. So what I need to do, first I need to give two inputs, the two numbers that I am looking for, that I want the SCF to be computed, right? So when I'm computing SCF of A and B, I'll pass A over the first input and B over here, right? And then it will do something and give me some value R at the output. I have to check if R equals to 0. If R is 0, then I'll say the input at B is the HCF. See what it says. Check if R equals to 0. If R is 0, so if output is 0, you can say B is the answer. So in case of 155 and 31, I can say 31 is, because R is 0 over here. So I can say 31 is the HCF of 155 and 31. I can easily say this. But if R is not 0, let me show you. If I give 15 over here and 10 over here. If I'm given 15 and 10, I want to compute the HCF of 15 and 10. So R is 5. So when R is not equals to 0, in this case, what I need to do is I need to put the value at B into the value at A. So the input that I was giving at B, I need to give it at A, and the input and the output that we have received here need to be inputted again at B. So what I need to do is I need to simply move. So if this, what I need to do, first I need to give A here and B here, right? I'll check R. If R is 0, then I'll simply say B is the answer, right? If R is not 0, so while R will not get 0, what I need to do, I put the value of B at A and value of R at B. I have to follow this simple approach, right? So let me take two examples. Suppose I need to compute the HCF of 527 and 341. So these were the two numbers whose HCF I wanted to compute. Okay. So 527 and 341. So I gave 527 over here, 341 over here. What is the output? It is 186. It is not 0. So if it is not 0, what I need to do? I need to put the value of B at A and value of R at B. So A will have new value, which is 341, and B will have new value, which is 186, right? So I'll write 341 at here and 186 here, right? Now you'll see when 341 is here, 186 is here, R is 155. So when R is 155, what I can say, it is still not 0. So what I need to do, I need to move B to A and R2B. So 186 over here and 155 over here. So I'll write, sorry. So I'll write 186 over here and 155 over here. Now you'll see it has given me R31. So R is 31 now. Still not 0. What I need to do? I need to put 155 over here and 31 over here, right? Now R is 0. Now when R is 0, I can say 31 is HCF of 527 and 341. So 31 is the answer. So you might have seen if I would have used the previous approach, right? 527 and 341. If I use the previous approach without magic machine, what would have happened? I would have divided both these numbers from 1 to 341 every number. So first I'll divide by 1, then I will divide by 2, then I'll divide by 3 till 341. So I would have performed 341 divisions, right? But here what I'm doing, in 3 steps I'm getting the answer. I'm just, my loop is going 3 times only. Here the loop will go 341 times, and here the loop is going only 3 times, and after 3 times this loop is giving me the answer, right? So you might have seen how much effort this magic machine has reduced. So what we need to do is, right now we need to write this, we need to create this magic machine in Python. Okay, so what we can do, we have these steps with us, these 1, 2, 3 steps with us. I need to code these steps in Python. So let me tell you how we are going to do this. I'll say it fast HCF.py. Now, first thing that I need to do is I want 2 numbers. So I'll say a comma b equals to eval input, enter 2 numbers. Now I have 2 A and B with me. So with the help of A and B, I need to compute R. It says enter A and B, then you have the value of R. I don't know how it is computing R. I'll tell you, right? So this R will be computed by, I'll say it will be computed by machine. Okay. Now what I need to do, I need to check while this R is not equals to 0. So I have to repeat this task. I had to put the input at B to A and R to B, right? This I was doing till my R was not 0. So what I'll do, A and B will have new inputs, which is like B comma R. So what you can see here, what I'm doing, I'm putting the value of B to A and value of R to B. This is what we were doing, value of B to A and value of R to B. That is what I was doing. So here also I've done, while R is not equals to, जब तक R 0 नहीं हो जाता तब तक मुझे क्या करते रहना है, A में B की वैल्यू डाल देनी है और B में R की वैल्यू डाल देनी है. I have to do this way, right? So I've done this, and when this will happen, I have new values of A and B, so new R will be computed. So when I'll get R equals to, so after doing repeating this thing, A comma B equals to B comma R, when new R will get 0, I'll get out of the loop and will say print HCF is this. So I'll say when R, say here, when R is 0, B is the answer. So I'll say B is the output. HCF is B, right? Now the logic is, what is this R? Right? We need to understand what this machine was doing to compute R. Now if I say this R is nothing, that is simply A mod B. What this magic machine was doing, it was not doing anything. It was simply saying R equals to A mod B. So what we have done is, we have taken 2 inputs. On the basis of those 2 inputs, we have computed the value of R, right? And this R, the magic machine, this was the logic of machine, which was like, it was simply computing R. It was not doing anything. It was doing A mod B over here, right? And this was the R, and it is giving me this value of R. So what I did, R equals to A mod B. Now I'll check if R is not equals to 0. This output is not equals to 0. What I am going to do, I'm going to swap the values. I'm going to put the value of B to A and R to B, right? And then I'll compute new R, which is again A mod B. So when I change the value of two inputs, I have new R with me, right? And when this loop will run till R is not equals to 0. As soon as R becomes 0, what we know that answer is at B input. Okay, so this is our answer. Now if I try to run this program, you'll see the program is done. You have created the magic machine in Python. Now if I try to run this, Python, and the name of the file is fastSCF. Now see, I'll take two large numbers which are larger than the previous one. So I'll take two large numbers like this. Now if I try to compute HCF, it is giving me in single instant of time, right? Our previous program, see, if I take these values, I'll copy these values and I give this to my previous program. The program will hang. The previous program, the previous logic is still hanging, right? It's not giving me result. But the new program gave me result very instantly because this magic machine is very fast. That's why. So you have written a program to compute fast HCF, and you just saw the logic. It is like we compute R, which is A mod B, and while this R is not equals to 0, we are going to swap the values from B to A and R to B, and we compute new R. And as soon as the R is 0, we are returning the value at B. I hope you're getting this. Is it clear? So we have written a faster program. So when you are going for competitive programming, when you are going for when you're going to encounter this SCF problem in some competition, then you should write this approach, because this approach will be faster approach and will help you to will fetch you will successfully execute the large test cases also. But the previous approach will fail and will give you TLE, that is time limit exceeded. Okay, so we have got the fast way to compute HCF using magic machine, and you can implement that magic machine run. Now comes another term which you might have heard in your programming, which is prime number. Can you tell me what is prime number? Prime number, this is the definition, right? A number with only two factors, one and itself. Any number that has only two factors, right? It is going to be prime, and to those two factors will be one and that number itself. If I take an example, it is 13, right? So 13 is an example of number, is a prime number, because 13 has only two factors. It is divisible by two numbers only. If I try to find the factors of 13, see, this was my program of factors. If I run this, Python factors.py, and I give the number 13 over here, you'll see it has only two factors, 1 and 13. So this number is prime number, right? Okay, so now we need to know how we can write a program that will compute that will tell me whether the given number is prime or not. So what we need to do, I can count the factors. So previously what we were doing, we were printing the factors of number. Now instead of printing, if I can count the factors, the numbers that divide we can count the numbers that has divided my given number, right? If I can count those, right? And on the basis of that count, I can easily tell, because every non-prime number is going to have more than two factors, right? It is never going to be less, because if I take any other number which is non-prime, right? Suppose 16 will have two factors, 1 and 16 will be there. but it will have more than 2 factors, right? So non-prime numbers are going to have more than 2 factors, and prime numbers are going to have only 2 factors. So if we can count the number of factors of any number, and if it is 2, I can say this number is prime, right? So if I need to write the logic, so see, this was the code for finding that where we were printing the factors of the number, right? So now if I take a variable count, which is 0, and whenever I find the divisor, whenever I find any divisor which divides this number, right? So instead of printing, if I simply increase the value of count, and after the loop has executed completely, if I compare the number of count, if count equals to 2, I'll print prime number, else the count will be greater than 2 always, so I'll print non-prime number. Is this code clear to you? Can I write this code to find prime numbers? Is this code clear? Where I'm counting the number of factors of a given number. Code is clear? I have taken a simple variable count here, and whenever I find a divisor, whenever if num mod I equals to 0, so that means I have found the divisor. What I'm going to do, I'm increase the value of count by 1. And after this for loop executes, I'm going to check the value of count. If it is 2, I can say the number is prime, otherwise number is non-prime. I'm going to write this code for you. Okay. So this was our factors program. I'll modify this only. So I'll take the value of count here. Count equals to 0. Initially count is 0. So we are assuming that we have not find any divisor of this number. Now instead of printing here, what I can do, I have to count equals to count plus 1. I'm increasing that count. Now when this for loop will execute, so you see I'm writing this if statement outside the for loop, right? It is not indented, it's starting from the left, so it is outside this for loop. So after this for loop, what I'm doing, I'm just checking the value of this count. Count equals to 2. If count is 2, what I need to print? Number is prime, because we know that if the number is prime, it would be divisible by only 2 numbers and the count will have only value 2. Else, if count is greater than 2, count could be anything else, but it will always be greater than 2. Non-prime number. Got this? Now if I try to run this program, it is factors.py only. If I give 13 over here, you'll see it gives me prime number. So we have written the complete logic where it is giving me, it can tell me whether the number is prime or not. Okay, so we have written this code program to determine whether given number is prime or not. So we have updated our program of factors, right? And we have seen. So is it clear? We have seen the code, it is working. Let me check for non-prime number also, right? Let me run it and check for some non-prime. So let me enter 26. See, it is giving me, it is non-prime number. So for prime number, it is giving me prime number. For non-prime number, it is giving me non-prime number. I hope you got this, right? Now what I need to do, and this is working fine, right? Now what I need to do is I need to check this program again, because when we are solving problems, we don't have to test our solutions to smaller numbers. We have to test our solutions for large numbers as well. So I again run this program and I take a simple number, which is like 9. Suppose this is a number for which I want to check whether it's prime or not. You see, this program has again started taking time. It is not responding because I've taken 9 to the power 10 times number. So this number contains 9 digits, right? So it is approximately 10 to the power 9, right? And this program is taking so long. So the logic that I've written where I'm counting the number of factors, the problem with this code is, I can tell you what is the problem. See this for loop. What this for loop is doing, it is running from 1 to num plus 1, you will see. So in case of 13, when I run, so it runs till 13 times only. So this executed very fast. But in case of this number, it is executing 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 9 to the or 10 times, and it will take a lot of time. That's why you are seeing that cursor is still blinking, and it will take a lot of time, right? You see this, it is still blinking, not has given me, not given answer till yet, because it will take 9 to the power 10 comparisons, right? It will first count all the, it will divide by all the numbers from 1 to 9, 9 to the power 10 times, and then it will give me, count the numbers, and after that it is going to give me results, right? So this program has just hanged. So what we can do, we are going to use, now the problem is, is it not possible for us to do the primality test of large numbers, right? Can't we do the primality test of large numbers? So yes, we can, but we need to change the way we are looking at the problem, right? Right now, what we saw that 13. So we saw that prime number is a number which has two factors, right? Which has two factors, 1 and 13, right? Or 1 and itself. Now you see, this is what our definition was. Now you see, this was the range where we can find the factors of 13. Just think other way around. We say that 13 is prime because it has two factors, 1 and 13. I say other thing, 13 is prime because it will not be divided by any number from 2 to 12, between 1 and 13, right? So if a number is prime, it should not be divisible. If number n is prime, I must say, it should not be divisible by any number from 2 to n minus 1. Can I say this thing? If it is divisible by any of the number in between, right, I have to break the, I won't be checking it again, like further. I won't be checking it further. I'll just get out of the loop. I'll just break the thing over there. So I'll start dividing this n from 2, right? If I find a number from 2 to n minus 1, if I find any number between 2, from 2 to n minus 1 that divides n, I don't have to check it further, right? See, in this case, when I am using 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, this number is prime. This number is even. We can see it will be divisible by 2, right? So if I would have checked the divisibility in first attempt, in first division by 2, it would have I would have been confirmed that this is an even number. It cannot be prime, right? It is divisible by 2. So now if I change my perception, I have changed the way of looking at prime number. I say a number is prime if it is not divisible by any number from 2 to n minus 1. If it is divisible by any number in between, it is never going to be prime number. And wherever I find the divisor, I will get out of the loop. Now the problem is, we have seen the for loop, which will execute from start to end. I never know, I have a solution to stop the loop in between. As soon as I find the divisor, I should be able to stop my loop in between. So Python provides you a break statement for this. Python break statement says if you want to break the for loop anytime in between or any loop, you can break the while loop also, right? So if you want to break the loop between start and end, between at any point, you can break it using this break statement. Let me show you one example. Let me open this demo.py. Here I'm writing for I in range 1, 11. So what it do? It will print, I'm printing I, right? What all of you know, right? What this program will do? This program, if I try to run this program, what it will do? It will print the numbers from 1 to 10. So it has printed all the numbers from 1 to 10. Now what I want is, whenever I becomes 5, I want to get out of the loop, right? So here I write print out of, and here I check if I equals to 5. What I need to do, I need to get out of this. So I put a break statement over here. What will happen, what I'm trying to do is, I am using this for loop will assign 1 to I, then 2 to I, then 3, 4, 5. When it will assign 5 to I, here in body, I'm checking I equals to 5. Yes, the value of I will be 5. So I say get out of the loop using this break statement. So when this break statement will execute, I'll get out of the loop and this statement should be printed. So it should not print any number after 5, right? Let me try to run this. First, I'll save this program. Then I'll try to run this program. You'll see it will print 1, it will print 2, it will print 3, it will print 4, and it will print 5. And when it is 5, this condition will become true, and we will get out of the loop. So you can stop the for loop in between using this break statement, right? Now what we need to do is, now we need to understand this thing, how we are going to solve this problem. So suppose I am giving some number n. I paste a sticker over it, I have put a label over it, and on that I have written prime. This means I am assuming initially that this number is prime. Okay, so I have assumed that the given number is prime. By what? I have put a label over it and I have written prime on it, right? Now what will I do? I'll divide this number from 2 to n minus 1 every number. I'll keep on dividing this number, this n, from 2 to n minus 1. Okay. So suppose I was dividing this number. So I divided by 2. It was not divided. I tried by 3. Change the content on this sticker, on this label. I've written non-prime on this number. As soon as I find some divisor, I have written non-prime on this label and I get out of the loop. After that, I will not be dividing this number by any other number. Okay. So what we did, I took a number n, put a label over it, and on that label, I wrote prime, right? When I wrote prime means I'm assuming that this number is prime. Then I start dividing that number from 2. I started from 2. I divided from 2. If it is not divisible, I'll look for 3. If it is not divisible, I'll look for 4 and I'll move on. So suppose I find some number in between before n minus 1, I find some number which divided this n, which gave me remainder 0. So instantly what I did, I wrote non-prime on this sticker, on this label, right? So when I've written non-prime, and I will stop the loop over there only. Okay, I'll stop the loop over there. I won't continue the loop. I won't divide by any further number. And now I'll check at this sticker. If it has non-prime written over it, I'll say this number is non-prime. That means this number was divided by some number. And if this number would have not been divided by any of the number from 2 to n minus 1, it would have prime written over it, right? So when the loop will terminate, it will have the label written prime over it when it is not divided by any of the number. Okay, in that case, I can say this number is prime. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to follow this approach. Number, assuming it is prime, then dividing it from 2 to n minus 1. If it is divisible by any of the number in between, I'll update the label and get out of the loop. And then I'll check the label and say the status of this number, right? So program to determine whether the given number is prime or not, use break statement to exit the loop. So we are going to follow this approach. Let me open up the editor and try to write. If you're not getting it, we'll see the steps and then you will definitely get it, right? Okay, I'll write prime.py, new file, prime.py. The first step is I'll prompt the user, enter the number. Now when user has entered the number, what I need to do, I need to set the label to prime. First of all, initially I'm going to assume that this label has value prime. This label over there, this has value prime. So I'm assuming that this number is prime. After that, I'll check the divisibility from 2 to n minus 1. So start will be 2 and end is n minus 1 in this case. If divisible, if I find a divisor, right? if any number from 2 to n minus 1 has divided this number, what will I say? If divisible, update the label to non-prime and break the loop. Right? So if I found the divisor, I'll update the label first. I'll write non-prime on it, and then I'll get out of the loop. Okay. And after the loop, when all this condition has executed, when I'll get out of the loop, I'll check the check label to tell whether it is prime or not. Right. Now you see, first thing that I need to do is eval input. Enter the number. When use, I'll store it in a variable num, suppose. After that, I had to set the label to prime. So now see, I'll show you one thing. I have one way to use this label for prime or non-prime. I can take a variable and its value I can set to prime and its value I can update to non-prime. This is one way I can do this, right? Another way of doing this is I instead of taking a variable and updating its value, I can take a Boolean variable. We have seen what are Boolean variables. Because this label can have only two values, right? Prime and non-prime. This label will not have any other value. So when we have two values, we have seen we can make use of Boolean variables. So I can, instead of using this label, I can use a variable which is Boolean variable, which is prime. Is prime equals to true means it is prime. Is prime equals to false means it is non-prime. So instead of using label, I can use this Boolean variable is prime and set it to true. Now when is prime is set to true, I've set it's prime to true. Next, we need to check the divisibility from 2. So I have a for loop for I'll say divisor in range from 2 to n minus 1. So if I want 2 to num minus 1, I'll have to write num over here. So this loop will run from 2 to n minus 1 time, num minus 1, right? Now, if it is divisible, I need to check if num is divisible by divisor equals to 0. So if I have found the divisor, what I need to do? I need to update the value of label. I need to check is prime to false. So this number is not prime. See here. When I'm assuming it is prime, I am setting is prime to true. When I'm setting it to false, I'm updating the label to non-prime. I'm setting to is prime to false, right? So I'm setting is prime false, and I need to break the loop over here. I'll break this loop, right? Now if I'll see, I need to check the label. So when this loop will terminate, so there are two conditions. This loop might have executed completely, or this loop might have breaked out in case of I have found the divisor. So I'll check the label over here. If is prime, that means the value of this variable is true. If the value of is prime is true, that means this number is not divided by any of the numbers. So I'll print prime number. Else, if this is prime is false, it means is prime is false. So if this number has been divided by some number, so I'll print non-prime number. Right? I have written the complete program where we assume this thing. We have a number from the user. We have set the label to true. That means we are saying that it is prime. Then we are dividing it from 2 to num minus 1. And if divisor is found, I am updating the variable to false and I'm getting out of the loop. After getting out of the loop, what I'm doing, I'm checking the value of this variable is prime. If this label, right, or this variable is true, that means this number is not divided, was not divided by any of the number in the range. So it was true set and it is true right now after the loop. That means it is prime number. It was not divided by any of the number. But if is prime is false, that means it was divided by some of the number in between, right? And in that case, it is a non-prime number. I'll save the program, try to run the program. Python prime.py. Sorry, Python, name of the file is prime.py. Okay, I'll enter. I'll check for 13. It is giving me prime number. I'll check the larger for the larger number 98765 1234. Right? Because this was my larger number. See, it has given me non-prime number instantly. But the previous program was not giving me this thing. It was taking a large amount of time for solving this 987651234 for this number. It was taking a large number of like a large amount of time, right? So what we have done is we had two approaches. We have done the primality test by counting the factors, and we have done the primary test by checking the divisibility, right? So we saw this when we are counting the factors, it was slower approach. When we checking the divisibility, it is faster approach, right? So you have written some program which is faster, right, which is giving me fast results for large numbers. But still there is some improvement. It needs some improvement. I can tell you where. See, this for loop, you again have a look at this for loop. It is running from 2 to num. So in case of non-prime numbers, it is fine. Find some divisor in between and this loop will break. But suppose I have this number. This number is 10-digit prime number. You're getting this? It is a 10-digit prime number. So this loop will run for this many times. So I have this value with me, this number. If I try to run this program for this large number, see, my program is working fine for large non-prime numbers, but still taking large amount of time for a huge amount of time for large prime numbers, right? Because this loop will run till that number for prime numbers. For non-prime numbers, it might break in between. That's why it was giving you faster responses. Now, there also we can. There are also still there are chance a scope of improve. There is a scope of improvement, right? And there are certain proofs also which we can discuss later on. Okay. You're getting this? So if how much effort I can reduce instead of 98 times, if I do it square root of 9. So I'm just showing you the comparison. If I pass num over here, it will run 100 times. When I pass square root of n over here, it will run only 10 times or 9 times only, right? So in case of 10,000, you see, in case of 10,000, if I write 10,000, this loop will run 10,000 Sorry guys, sorry for the interruption actually. Okay. Now visible? If you can type yes. Okay, so we were discussing. Instead of this num, we are running this loop for num. Instead of this, if I can run it square root of num times, right? So I'm showing you the comparison. I just show you the comparison, how much difference it will take. So if num is 100, right? In that case, this loop will run 100 times. But if I am running a square root of n times, this loop will run only 10 times. And this comparison becomes larger with the larger values. So if I have a value 10,000, right? In that case, this loop will run 10,000 times, but this, when I pass square root, this right? So instead of n, I'll pass square root of n, and you will find the proofs. I can tell you in next videos or next sessions that it is proved that square root of n is the valid end condition to check. So when I need to pass run this loop from 2 to square root of n, I need to pass 2, and the end range would be square root of n. So square root of n could be a fractional part, right? It could be a floating point number. So we need to convert it into integer using int function. So when I make this change in my program, so this was our program for prime.py, right? So here I need to update this loop only. So if I run this program for square root of num, we can compute num to the power 0.5. Now because this value can be fractional, I'll convert it into integer. Sorry, not yeah, integer, right? So, and then this value plus 1 I need to, because I need to run this loop till square root of n. So I have passed the ending range plus 1. Now you see, if I run this program again, it's still working. I look for small numbers, it's giving me fast responses. I look for large non-prime numbers, it's giving me fast results, right? What I've done, I've just changed the range from num to square root of num, right? Now if I run for our 10-digit prime number, large prime number, right? I'll copy this value. I'll run it for this large prime number. You see, it has given me that it's prime instantly. So this is what the difference is. How you can make your program run faster. It can easily tell you that. We have already discussed this. Computer does not do anything on its own. It's you who give them instruction. If you write better algorithms, if you write better programs, computer will work fast. If you write slower algorithms, slower programs, then computer will take time to give answers. So it's the smartness of yours that is reflected in programming, right? So uh, I told you we will be passing only, we have just changed the range from num to square root of num only, and this will give, and this is proved in mathematics. I can also show you, but it's not the time. Right now we don't have much time, but it is proved that you can search on internet also, that for searching prime we don't have to search till number, we can search till square root of number, right? And if I'm searching for square root of number, I can be sure that after the square root of number, if I have not found any divisor of number before before the square root of the number, I am not going to get the divisor of the. So let me show you here. So I have given some number, suppose x, right? So this is my number line, right? And this is 1 and this is x, suppose. So I'm starting looking for the divisors of this number from 2 to x minus 1. This is what we are doing, right? We were looking for divisors of this number from 2 to x minus 1 in this range, right? Now if I say you don't look for divisors from 2 to x minus 1, you just search for square root of x minus 1, which will lie somewhere here. You just search from 2 to square root of x minus 1. You don't have, because I give you guarantee that if you don't find any divisor over here, right, then it is confirmed that you cannot find the divisor of x after this. This is mathematically proved, right? So if you cannot find the divisor of any number from 2 to square root of that number, it is guaranteed that you are not going to get find the divisor of that number after this. That's why we just changed uh, a limit in our program from num to square root of num minus 1, square root of num plus 1, right? And we saw how fast we were able to get the responses in all the three cases, for small prime numbers, for large non-prime numbers, and large prime numbers. So this was all for today's session, where we discussed what are how to compute factors of a given number, and how we can um, compute HCF of two numbers, how we can write a program that will compute the HCF of two numbers in faster than the traditional approach. Then we saw what are prime numbers, how do we compute prime numbers, how do we tell whether the given number is prime or not depending on the counting of factors. Then we improved our algorithm by checking the divisibility from 2 to num minus 1, right? And then we further improved the the working of our algorithm from 2 to square root of num, right? So if you write this program, I can guarantee you, if your range is square root of n, I can guarantee you that your program will pass all the test cases when you appear in competitive programming, or you are trying to solve this problem, the prime number problem, in certain competitions, right? I hope things are clear to you. Any doubts, any queries, you can ask. Any queries from your side? Okay. So I hope things are clear. We'll see you on Tuesday, where we will be working with functions. We'll see how we can improve the readability of our code, how why we should be using functions, and what is the importance of using functions in the program, how we can write better programs using functions. So see you next tomorrow. Thank you guys. Thank you very much.